Before we begin, I would like to address something that happened this weekend. There was a data breach, although it was so imbecilic on the part of the Entertainment Software Association that to call it a breach is to give entirely too much credit to anyone who found it. But basically, anyone who attended E3 this year got doxed by the ESA, essentially the representative of the video game industry on this earth. So the video game industry doxed YouTubers, journalists, analysts, anyone who was attending E3 in a professional capacity, which is great, isn't it? I've got no love for the ESA. Many times over the past few years, I've torn into them because I think they are a slimy, shady, astroturfing lobbyist for the so-called AAA game industry. They've never looked out for anyone but major publishers. And I long ago stopped going to E3, and one of the reasons was that I despised the ESA. And it's nice to know that on top of being shady, astroturfy lobbyists for the so-called AAA game industry, they're also a bunch of fucking morons. You absolute fucking idiots. In the fallout of all this, of putting people's sensitive information online where any old weird, harassy, stalky bastard can find it, the ESA didn't really respond to it until hours after the breach was discovered, and they've not interfaced directly with the over 2,000 people affected. A lot of people didn't know about this until they saw headlines. It's pathetic. And all they've done, all the ESA have done, is issue some vague, damn near boilerplatey sounding faux apology where they just say they regret this occurrence. Fuck off. There needs to be real recriminations for this. In Europe, this may very well violate the GDPR. And in the US, I've already seen people talk about a class action suit. And I'm all on board for that. If you were anyone who became a victim of this mass industrial doxing, or indeed if you weren't and you'd like to dodge a bullet, don't go to E3. They are incompetent boobs. Absolutely absolutely fucking atrocious. The ESA should be ashamed of itself. E3 should be embarrassed. This is one of the most pitiful, despicable things I've seen from a pitiful, despicable organisation. And it happened far too late for me to do a full-on video for it, but I could not let it escape some hefty criticism, because it's absolutely astonishing and disgusting. One of them, two of them for the ESA in general, but 4 now. Here's another 2 just for that, for the data. Fucking hell. Especially when there are weird stalkers and harassers out there. Sort your shit out, ESA. Sort your fucking shit out. Last week I thought I could do an episode without swearing to see how that went. But I'm making up for it today already. Fucking ESA.
Activision stunned the world when it revealed that Crash Team Racing Nitro Re-Fueled, a remake of a 20-year-old game, would be getting microtransactions weeks after launch. And when I say it stunned the world, I mean it only surprised anyone who hasn't observed the publisher's shady pattern of behaviour over the past few years. Nitro Re-Fueled's suspiciously Fortnite-esque storefront may have been running on purely in-game currency at launch, but I immediately suspected it was laying the groundwork for an incoming premium option, and once again, I unfortunately called it. To be fair, in this case, many people did, because again, Activision has an observable pattern of behaviour. Over a month after the game came out, Crash Team Racing will offer the option to purchase Wumper coins instead of grinding for them in-game. Activision naturally busted out the same tired old justifications, claiming player choice and cosmetic, ignoring, as the industry always does, years Reviewers have credible arguments against these excuses that cite the psychological manipulation, social pressure, and impact on game design that microtransactions of any stripe invariably have. What Activision didn't do is explain exactly why it decided to sell its monopoly money currency weeks after launch, long after game reviews had been published and long after the bulk of potential customers already bought it. This is absolutely nothing new for Activision. In recent years, shoveling the microtransactions into a game after launch has become par for the course. Earlier in the year, loot boxes were snuck into Call of Duty Black Ops 4 months after it was released, bringing Activision's own shitty brand of in-game gambling to the title once most of the press had died down about it. In fact, this is becoming standard procedure for monetizing Call of Duty, releasing the game first, and then retroactively adding the bollocks in. The most egregious example being Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare Remastered. Despite being a remaster of a game produced long before aggressive monetization took over AAA games, Activision snuck pay-to-win microtransactions and gambling mechanics into it just because they bloody well could, because they're Activision and fuck you. Post-launch monetization is clearly an Activision favourite and looks set to be its standard model, though it's not the only company to pull this stunt. Electronic Arts has done it too, most disappointingly with Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare 2. I loved that game, and it was on track to be a Game of the Year contender for me until EA revealed it just couldn't resist cramming yet another free-to-play economy into a distinctly non-free game. Like Crash Team Racing, the way you randomly unlocked stuff looked prime for microtransactions, but I really hoped EA wouldn't. I don't know why I had that hope to begin with. As many of you know, I don't give year-end honours to what I call fee-to-pay games. Those games you have to pay up front for that supplement their income with freemium monetization, so Garden Warfare didn't get the nod. One game I did give a Game of the Year award to, however, was Rocket League, an excellent game that at the time of my Jimquisition awards in 2015 had no bullshit in-app purchases. This one was especially heartbreaking because Rocket League truly is a great game and at the time deserved the nod, but when Overwatch popularised loot boxes in mainstream games during the grim gambling year of 2016, Psyonix just couldn't turn away from the temptation of jumping aboard the crowded gravy train of predatory gambling mechanics. Essentially, the award I gave that game is forever greyed out, asterisked, basically discredited, because fuck what Psyonix did, fuck loot boxes, fuck microtransactions, and fuck popping new money-making schemes into games after release. But I guess with companies calling their games services these days, they've effectively given themselves permission to do whatever the hell they want. The pathetic buggers of Bethesda had an interesting slant on the tactic. As a threadbare, shit-tacular live service game, Fallout 76 did launch with an in-game premium currency and an atomic shop with premium items. However, PR mouthpiece Pete Hines emphasised this was a cosmetic store for cosmetic items. Still a load of hot garbage, but many people accepted it. Then, a few months later, clearly non-cosmetic items were dribbled in. Repair kits and later scrap kits were added so players could pay for convenience and get small but real advantages. While incremental purchases themselves were not added post-launch, a particular strain of purchase that customers were led to believe wouldn't be added was indeed added.
I'm impressed you're still here.
Post-launch microtransactions are yet another tactic in the seemingly endless list of tactics companies pull to get away with their bullshit. So, why do it? Why wait a while before introducing in-game purchases and premium currencies into a game when they were always going to be there? There are a few incentives for delaying the monetization, all of which naturally benefit the parasites in charge while offering no real benefit to us. First of all, and this is the one advantage most people consider, is game reviews, and the ability to keep business models out of the critique. Due to the continued controversial nature of microtransactions, a lot of good reviewers out there will highlight their presence in a game, and sometimes detail exactly how the in-game storefronts and currencies work, what can be bought and how it can be bought, etc, etc. If none of this is available by the time of release, the reviewers obviously can't talk about it and the review goes up with nary a mention. This was true of Crash Team Racing, which got great reviews, none of which mentioned the monetization, because they literally couldn't. It didn't exist until August. Same goes for Garden Warfare 2, and obviously Rocket League got all the praise in the world from me, only so I'd regret it later. In some cases in the past, microtransactions have been obscured from reviewers before the game's out. In one such example, microtransaction prices were hidden for reviewers in Assassin's Creed Unity. Reviewers of Deus Ex Mankind Divided didn't get to see the pathetically desperate campaign microtransactions that Square Enix stuffed in at the last minute. The advantage to publishers is clear. If a critic can't see it, a critic can't criticize it. As well as reviews, press attention in general is a brief window. New games, new stories, new controversies, and new talking points happen constantly in a 24-hour news cycle where games media is desperate to be on the cutting edge of the conversation. News of bollocks economies being in a game will invariably get way more attention when the game's brand new and everyone's looking for information about it. Once it's been out for a while and the world's moved on to new distractions, the news just isn't going to be so hot. But the idea of dodging professional criticism isn't the only benefit, and it's likely not the primary concern of publishers, who, contrary to popular belief, do not generally take reviews anywhere near as seriously as the gaming community. No, there are far more sinister bonuses that companies can take advantage of when delaying microtransactions. One such bonus is bypassing an ESRB warning at launch. The ESRB, the Entertainment Software Ratings Board, has a lot of recognizable content warnings attached to its ratings, such as blood and gore, vulgar language, sexual content, and everybody's favourite, comic mischief. In 2018, in an attempt to cool down the heat from lootbox backlash, the ESRB revealed a new content warning for future ratings in-game purchases. This label is attached to games with virtual currency, loot boxes, digital goods. I mean, it's called in-game purchases, it's fairly self-explanatory. It's frankly not an efficient warning for things like loot boxes, deliberately lumping everything together to cover the industry's tracks, but nonetheless it's a warning that exists and it should be attached to games with in-game purchases. However, just like with game reviews, the ESRB can't rate what isn't there when they do the rating. To its credit, the ESRB does eventually amend the ratings digitally, but not before the game's enjoyed weeks without the pertinent label attached. As for physical copies, existing ones can't be amended unless the ESRB goes to every store in the world with a goddamn Sharpie. In fact, I went to a local store to check the back of packages for Crash Team Racing and found the in-game purchases label distinctly missing. At least in cases where the warning wasn't, shall we say, manually patched in. But seriously, all of those existing copies of the game now have inadequate labeling thanks to Activision's sneaky delaying tactics. These publishers are essentially undermining, and in the case of physical copies, making a mockery of the very ESRB system that's been designed explicitly to cover their arses. Fucking dicks! We've talked in previous videos about the concept of the confusopoly, how companies benefit from keeping their customers in the dark about what exactly is or isn't in a game. If you're someone who refuses to buy microtransaction-fueled games on principle, or because you have spending addiction struggles or other psychological issues that make you vulnerable to vulturine economies, your ability to be forewarned about the games you buy has been made that much harder by these duplicitous and sneaky workarounds. And that brings us to the most insidious element in all of this, the sheer fact that post-launch microtransactions turn video games into a fucking honey trap. Microtransactions work best when players are already invested in some way. A typical freemium game does this with multiple currencies, such as the dollars and donuts in Simpsons Tapped Out. The dollars are earned in-game and liberally thrown at the player, but they're practically worthless. You can't do anything you'd actually want to do with them, but you keep amassing more and more of it, which gives you a full sense of progress, acquisition, and investment. This makes you susceptible to buying the donuts, the premium currency, to capitalize on said investment. Other games will give you a bundle of premium cash up front or opportunities to earn currency or loot crates early, only to withdraw it later on. Once again to get you invested, get you hooked on the positive feedback, get you feeling shortchanged enough to, hopefully from their perspective, stump up real green to keep the fake green flowing. What Activision and other publishers are underhandedly doing now is sucking you into the game experience for weeks beforehand, building up your playtime and your sense of progression, essentially getting you hooked on the game first, and then introducing the premium economy once you're good and settled in and playing regularly. They get you emotionally invested before pulling the trigger. I've long called video game microtransactions predatory, but this couldn't be more on the nose. This is practically inviting comparisons to a wolf in sheep's clothing, a game that comes to you unladen with in-game purchases only to bare its fangs and dig the claws in when your guard's down. And, like I often find myself doing, I wrap up today's depressing foray into the dismal world of cynical quadruplicapitalism with a portent. Expect more of this bollocks in future. Expect the mainstream games industry to always innovate new and despicable ways to smuggle their crap in under the radar, to attempt to hoodwink and exploit its own audience, to circumvent ESRB ratings, to avoid the scrutiny of game reviewers, to lull players into trusting them before springing the trap. Because to these self-styled, self-entitled AAA publishers, no amount of money is ever enough, no low is too low. If it makes them money, and they can get away with it, these slimy fucking cretins will do it without a second bloody thought. Sorry for the clacking noise in the outro you're about to watch. I put lots of badges on my lapel, and then I put the microphone in a bad place right in between them, so we won't do that again.
Another bit of an angry rant to close this out, to accompany the angry rant that we opened the show with. There's a news story that went about that a level designer for Wolfenstein Youngblood was basically harassed off Twitter over the microtransactions in the game. Don't fucking do that! Okay? I like to think that the majority of the people watching this show are not into that kind of stupid behaviour. But just in case there's anyone watching who is, that doesn't help anyone. A level designer for the game cannot be held responsible for what is usually, most commonly, almost always a publisher-mandated thing. Now, I understand to some degree that you can feel defeated and a bit hopeless criticising a faceless corporation that doesn't really give a shit about you. I feel that despair every week I do this show. But just because you can find someone with a name and a face, and you might get a little more satisfaction out of just going after them for it, it's not going to get you any closer to whatever it is you're trying to achieve by harassing them in the first place, because they're a level designer. Their job is to design a level, not come up with the monetization for the game. Now, sometimes games are designed at that level to accompany and bolster and make the microtransactions more attractive. But again, they're not the ones calling the shots. Shit rolls downhill, and all you're doing is kicking that shit downhill and going after people who are in the trenches who don't make those decisions. This is why the Jimquisition almost always focuses on the corporate side of it and focuses on businesses, not individuals, unless they are high-ranking individuals, CEOs, executives, major mouthpieces with real sway and influence, who are inextricable from certain stories. Just going after random developers, level designers, coders, artists, whatever, it doesn't help me. It doesn't help me. It makes my job harder because I'm trying to focus on the real negative psychological impact that microtransactions and loot boxes and all that stuff have. I'm trying to focus on that, but it's easy to lump everyone together with all the weirdos who will just go on the attack over microtransactions and just go completely off base and start harassing people off Twitter over it. That makes my job hard. It makes the job of anyone who covers shitty business practices in the game industry harder, more difficult to do, because we have to worry about being lumped in with that crowd as well. If you actually give a shit about the negative impact of aggressive predatory in-game monetization, don't act like an aggressive predator yourself, okay? Don't pick on people who likely had no say and no sway in the business side of things, okay? Because it's not going to help you, It doesn't help me. It doesn't help fucking anything. Alright? Don't fucking do it. Don't be a tool. Again, hopefully most of you watching this, what I'm saying here doesn't really apply to you. But just in case there's anyone out there to whom it does apply, just fucking think. Think. And this doesn't include the people who are just angry that there were 2 women that you could play as in the game. Because for some reason people are actually mad about that. Don't be. That's silly. Thank God for me.